Hello, my name is Martin. Welcome back to another video. James is here.
You alright?
And Roy's here.
Alright.
In this video we're local because we're doing a bit of a story on the Wince Brook, which is a brook that he knows very well and I know quite well because it's in our local area. So we're getting very local today. North Manchester, Middleton, Chadderton, that sort of way on. Now the Wince Brook is a tributary of the River Irk, but at this point here it's actually as big as the River Irk, which is a strange thing, but I'm going to show you the reason why it's so cantankerous at this point here. Anyway, what we're going to do, I'll just get somewhere quieter. The ubiquitous sewer pipe there. Imagine generations of kids trying to shimmy over that. Anyway, first part of our journey is upstream over in Chadderton, and it's the first culvert on the Wince Brook we're going to take a look at. Quite an interesting one. Known locally as Red Barn. Now where we get in, we're going to go upstream towards the source. The rest of the video will be going downstream towards where it meets the River Irk. So without further ado, upstream to Red Barn and the first culvert on the Wince Brook. All big thorn bushes. So this is one of the first culverts, small brick affair. We're going to walk in here, see how far it goes. Looks quite old, plenty of brick, plenty of moss. I can hear my echo like mad. So we'll go inside, see what it's like. You can see where we're going there. Apparently there's some interesting features in here, so we'll go and take a look.
Well, it's not too bad, not central work to do with it.
So the float's about 6 inches deep, and we've got something joining us here now. Two little side brooks.
Like hail.
Okay, so the Wince Brook, let's just take a look at where it starts, where it ends. As we zoom in, very much a North Manchester brook, this one. Probably one of the lesser known brooks of Manchester. It starts in Chadderton, near a big town called Oldham. And it starts in this area here. So we're just in Chadderton, Oldham is over here. So it starts round here. It's got two sources, and I'm going to show you the two sources in a bit later in the video. It runs this way. It runs round the back of Foxdenton Park, and it runs down here towards the town of Middleton, and it ends over here in Middleton where it joins the River Irk. So if I just zoom out, I'll try and give you a zoom out on that. Kind of starts here and ends over here, so it's not a very long brook, and it goes in that sort of direction. Wow. Very little formation there. So a fair old bit of iron staining. Right, all this ochre, this iron staining in this culvert makes you think of mining activity.
Yeah.
There was a mine. I found it on the map.
Where?
I'll show you. Okay, so let's take a look at the map and see if we can find out why there's all this iron ore staining going on. We've just entered the Wince Brook here. You'll see it meandering across these fields. We've entered here, all right? Lydia Becker Way, I just want you to clock that because that has a former life. It's currently a road, but it has a former life. And Lydia Becker, if you look her up, she was a very significant character, a very amazing woman. But I'll let you look that one up. Anyway, we've entered here, and the Wince Brook is never seen again above ground. This is where it emerges, and it is, if you go upstream, never seen again, as we learned making this video. So we get into around about here, so not too far into the culvert, and we're starting to see the iron ochre staining. So what's going on? Was there a mine here? Surely not in Chadderton. Well, believe it or not, if we go to the old maps, let's take a look at the old maps. Look at that. Stockfield Colliery. There you go. That's where we entered. And as I say, we get here and there was a colliery here, Stockfield Colliery. I never realised in my local area in Chadderton there'd been mining activity. But there you go. Just jumping backwards, remember I said Lydia Becker Way? You can see it was a railway. And if we just jump back there, you can see the embankment there. Go to the old maps and they've utilised the railway embankment, which was the Middleton Junction and Oldham Branch Railway. That's where the Wince Brook emerges, and there you go, Stockfield Colliery. What I'm going to do is, I'm just going to show you quickly, if we go to side by side, if you take a look at the cursors will run in sync with each other here. Left-hand map, old map, right-hand map is modern day. And just for your information, the left-hand map is 1892 to 1914. But look at the shaft. Look at what's on the right-hand side, what's there now. So they've not built on that shaft there. And if you look where if I pull that over, look where the air shaft is. It's just all car parks. Look at that shaft. So even, I love looking at this and seeing the way modern day they've had to avoid building on this area because they know, obviously the surveys have shown up mining activity in the area, and that's where the air shaft was. Where there was a reservoir, which is now fields, and the chimney, if you look at that, chimney there on the left-hand side, is now in someone's garden, or was in someone's garden. So there you go, that's the culprit, Stockfield Colliery. One of quite a few collieries in the area that I never knew Oldham had so many collieries. Let's see if we can find some information on Stockfield Colliery. Okay, so here's my source, this excellent piece of information. We're going to the bottom of the page. It says this investment, possibly more than £40,000 per shaft, was not as productive as the Chamber Colliery Company had hoped. For all the Chadderton pits except Stockfield had been abandoned by 1897 because of water problems. Stockfield continued to produce coal until 1914. Now it was the Chamber Colliery Company that owned these local Chadderton and Oldham mines. Very interesting. And there's the two owners there, and we can see there on the dates that Stockfield operated from 1865 to 1914. This piece of information here tells us how many people worked at the colliery. In its heyday, Stockfield, one of the biggest employers, 181 people underground, 25 above ground. It's very strange that these places existed, because if it closed in 1914 and even stood derelict for a few years after, there's not a single person living that would remember it. Absolutely not at all. Something that was so ubiquitous in the area, a big employer, you know, people worked and had lives there, and it's gone. Not even a memory. No one alive to remember it. I find it very strange, and there really isn't a trace of anything at all, apart from when you get down in these culverts, it is like going back in time. Well, subtle reminders of what once was. So I'm amazed at how far underground we are. We sort of came, I know, because we came down an embankment, didn't we?
Yeah.
So that's why we're so low, yeah. So look at that. Way, that is... Sleeping a fair bit now. Not very nice. Very nice. Absolutely horrendous. I'm beginning to dislike these culverts massively. I don't know how long this stoop goes on for, but I'm going to stop filming for the moment, and I'll see you hopefully if it ends. We can actually stand up now. Shitty now. Yeah, very uneven surface here. So we're playing with torches, exploring with torches.
Yeah.
We've got green, we've got anything else, and we've got blue. So another change ahead now. Oh, big.
Yeah, this is massive. This is
very egg-shaped. Very egg-shaped. Wow. Like an old sewer, look at that. So this egg section we're in, it's vastly oversized for the small brook that we're walking in. Classic egg shape, you know, that self-cleaning basil jet invention, but we don't know why it's so big.
Nothing about, remember one of the things we read?
Right.
They said it had a lot of problem with groundwater at the colliery, didn't they?
Right.
And that bit there is where the colliery roughly would have been, so maybe it was that larger size there. I mean, that's all I can think of really.
Another old public construction manual. So you would never think a small, you know, unassuming brook like the Wince Brook would have such beautiful brickwork and architecture in it. You know, you hear of the big ones like the Irwell, the Medlock, but this is quite beautiful. If you look on the right here coming up, there's a right ghost ready to appear. Quite beautiful that, look how long that's been running for. It's just built up all that there. Look at that. That's incredible, isn't it? Wow. So we're going into a stone section now. So we've got very sort of red sandstone here, which is typical of this area. Probably very old as well, this, you know, this section. Very old, look at that. You see the three marks there? And the mark there. That's very interesting. And there's another mark there. So this is looking very old, isn't it? Mark there. What's that one?
Oh, strange names as well.
Yeah. I can't help noticing all the marks on the wall. Look at them. And there. And there across. So there you go. So I'm being told that we are going down this section here. Just have a look at it. I'm not so keen.
Well, go on, man.
So that's what it's like for Roy. Right.
You're better off on your knees and shuffling your feet.
Yeah, it goes on forever this.
Keep going.
Okay, so let's talk about the source of the brook. Like I said, it never appears above ground again. And if you remember, we came in here and we've got underneath this field here, that's what we've done. Seems a lot longer. And then the brook swings up this way. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to move to a more static map. I'm going to show you where the source is, well, the source is overlaid. I just want you to clock Queen's Road there as your point of reference as we go to this other map. Okay, so here we go. This is more of a static map, but you'll see there's Queen's Road that I told you to clock, and there's the fields. And as I said, the brook is swinging up this way now, and we've overlaid the route of the brook onto it. And this is from a good source, so please just trust me on this one. There's two sources. I want to forget this for the moment. There's two sources to the Wince Brook. There's one here, and there's one here. And what you've got to imagine, you've got to use your imagination, that these were probably little tiny springs that just ran as little tiny things you could probably step over when all this was fields and it was all farms back in, you know, the very early days, pre-industrial revolution. And you could probably just leap over this. There were like little annoying water courses that probably got swelled up when it were raining. But here we are, two little springs that are now probably just no more than in pipes, that run this way and join here, and then they run onwards here, and this now becomes what we know as the Wince Brook. I want to go here first. you'll note this is Stockfield Road and Peel Street. And here, at this source here, this is a scrapyard. Alright, this is now a scrapyard. I want to go to the old maps and show you what this used to be, because it's quite interesting. Okay, so here we are on the old maps. This is my favourite map, 1888 to 1913. And there you go, Stockfield Road and Peel Street. And right on the corner where there was a scrapyard, there was a reservoir. Now clock this view. You've got the Sun Mill here, and you've got some buildings here and the reservoir. We suspect that this is the Wince Brook heading towards the fields here and the colliery, the old Stockfield Colliery. We suspect this is the Wince Brook running open at one point back in the day, and then it quickly runs into a reservoir there and runs onwards and isn't seen again till where we got in on this culvert. So, Sun Mill, buildings and a reservoir. I'm now going to show you a picture from Britain from above, and this is probably about 50 years later. Well, no, 40 years later. So we're going to look on this picture from this direction. This photograph is from this direction. So Peel Street will be in front of us, and the reservoir will be kind of to the left here. But we're going to see the end on of Sun Mill and this bit of a building here. So just if you swing it round in your head, because I'm now going to show you a photograph. Okay, there you go, just for posterity, there it is. There's the reservoir. Here's, if we click on there, that's Stockfield Road, and that's Peel Street. And I have researched this is correct. There's the reservoir. There's the end on of Sun Mill there. If we click on there, comes up, it's just off the screen, it says Sun Cotton Mill there. And there's that building there that was in front. And there's the reservoir. So I suspect that pre all this being built, this photograph is 1947 by the way, that there was a little spring there, and they've decided this will be a good place to create a reservoir for a mill because of that spring. Let's dam it up, let's dam the little waterway, and although we can't fully rely on this tiny spring, we can utilise it to help fill this along with rainwater, and these massive mills utilised it. Obviously it's not been enough because there's another big reservoir there as well now. But isn't that fascinating that right at the source was a reservoir that obviously is now a scrapyard, long since gone. Imagine, do you remember when I said that there's a little bit where it ran open? Well, I think it's here, and there's that other reservoir that I pointed out to you. And then at some point, that source leaves and heads on down to join the second source, and it will become the Wince Brook. But there you go, just wanted to show you that, how it was back in the day, and how one of the sources of the Wince Brook created a reservoir there. Let's just take a look at that second source now. Okay, back to our map that's got the two sources overlaid on it, and there's the second source, and it's kind of there in a bit of a no man's land between two factory units, but let's trace it on the map. So we follow down Peel Street, and where Stock Lane bends here and goes straight for a bit, Peel Street, Stock Lane comes down, go across, not as far as Lansdowne Road, and it's kind of here in this area just off Peel Street, just in some land to the, as we're looking at it, right of Peel Street. Let's go to the old maps. Right, so here we are on the maps, and what did we say? The continuation of Peel Street down here, Stock Lane runs down here and runs straight for a bit, and there's Lansdowne Road, and it's in a no man's land we said, and there it is. Look at that, more reservoirs for mills here. So again, they probably utilised that little spring for one of these reservoirs or for both. I'm not saying it would fill these reservoirs, but it would certainly help if you dammed off the little water course that the spring created, and that would be a base for your reservoirs. So there you go. Now let's see if we can find this on Britain from above. Let's see if we can navigate around. What's nearby that we know? Hertford Mill, an old friend of ours, Hertford Mill. And if we go that way, there's another mill there, and then slightly to the left is our reservoirs. You can tell I know that Hertford Mill's on the photographs, but that's how I'm going to navigate it. Oh, by the way, from that second source, it will run up there, won't it? It meets the first source here, runs open a bit, and then down there back towards, or down here back towards Stockfield Colliery. But anyway, where's our friend Hertford Mill? Now, there you go, there's Hertford Mill, look at that. And of course we did our best to follow the demolition of Hertford Mill. If you remember, I did a video on this. We walked round here, we went in the engine rooms. Look at that chimney smoking away, and that chimney's still standing, by the way. This has gone, and this reservoir has gone, because I walked round here and I know for a fact this reservoir's gone. If you remember, we did the bit of a video where we had to go up on the top floor there to rescue my mate's drone. Anyway, we move onwards. So we said we'd navigate like this. We go, I hope this is right, we go on to either that mill there or there's a mill there, and then we said we'd go left and there's some reservoirs there. So that could be where our, what we call in the second source is, in that, those reservoirs there. But if you look at the skyline there, would you look at that? All those chimneys smoking away, incredible. And lots of those will be gone now, those mills. Certainly I know for a fact a lot of those chimneys have gone, because I'm from the area.
I think from the area, because yeah, it's about 5 kilometres or something.
Overflow. And then this goes onwards and onwards down there.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you look here, an egg-shaped watercourse joins from the left. You'd be forgiven for thinking that is a sewer, but it's not. Let me go to the map showing the sources. Red X shows the source joining from the left, and that is a very short brook called the Stock Brook, and it joins the Wince Brook there. Right, so this culvert we're in probably just gets smaller and smaller towards the source, doesn't it? Because we get to a point, or we've got to a point, where we have to turn around because we've stooped too much. You carried on.
I persevered up there a few years back, I say a few years back, a decade ago. It just shrunk. I think we're not going to bother there today.
Yeah. So very wet now. A lot of water coming in. I think it's time to turn around and get out.
I need a back stretch before we do.
Just getting the little one.
It just goes really stinking out through the cold.
Yeah. So that's where the source of the incoming water is. We've got a manhole up there. It's quite horrendous. And so we turn round and go backwards, but we knew we were never going to get out the other side. There is no other side. As Roy said, this shrinks down and gets just to small pipes because it leads to tiny springs. That's all this goes to. But it was worth going in because it really is frozen in time, this place. I mean, the markings on those bricks, on those stones rather, and all that iron staining, while the rest of the world goes on above ground, this place is lost in time, really. So there you go, that was one of the first culverts on the Wince Brook. Who'd have thought that this brick tunnel goes so ancient?
I know, it
like
is
a different. The only time I've experienced something like that was in Gorton, the Gore Brook at Gorton Falls, where it just suddenly took on this whole different worldly appearance. Yeah. Because all the weeds were coming in and the vines were coming and everything. Anyway, so yeah, very, very old. That's one of them. We're going to go and see another one now that the locals, I say the locals, I'm one of the locals, call the Thunder Culvert apparently, because, well, this one's got a water feature in it and it's very, very, shall we just say, it's quite impressive. So we're going to head down now. I'll cut to some maps, I'll show you where we're going, and we'll do the second culvert now. Okay, so that's the first culvert done, and we come back out here where we went in. And then the next section of the Wince Brook, because obviously we've just gone upstream, we can now follow it in the natural way, which is downstream. So the next section is pretty uninteresting. It just runs as a little tiny brook across all these fields here. Looks like it's formed an oxbow lake there, maybe. But it runs across here, across these fields, and it runs down here, underneath Foxdenton Lane there, and reappears here at the back of this is Foxdenton Park. So you're now going to catch up with us here, just in this corner. But I want you to clock something coming into view now, which is going to make a massive difference to the Wince Brook. Anyway, cracking on, I'll meet you there. Water feature, and have we got a water feature to show you today? So, Foxdenton Park. I've actually done a video here before, back in a long time ago. Some of my earliest memories are of this park. School trip when we were about 6, and I think even earlier coming down here to Foxy Park. I love Foxy Park, I really do.
But when we got to about 8 or 9, we used to play down at the back of Foxy Park in what we didn't know at the time was the Wince Brook.
Now at the back of Foxdenton Park, just before it enters the next culvert, you can see the Wince Brook is still a tiny little thing. You could step over it, it really is nothing. But this culvert has a few memories for me. Imagine me as a 8-year-old kid standing at the entrance looking into this archway with my friends, scared to death of going in. And apparently other kids did it as well, and it was known as the Thunder Tunnel. Not the Thunder Culvert that I said before, Thunder Tunnel. There's a reason why it was called the Thunder Tunnel, and I'm going to show you that. But yes, I have history there, many, many years ago, standing at that entrance to that culvert.
Okay, so we're in. So we wouldn't normally, it's raining outside, we wouldn't normally come in here in the rain, but it's a little bit of it's not a dangerous culvert, to be honest with you, so I'm told. But there is the roar of water up ahead, and it's what one of the features I want to show you. Got my torch, exploring my torches, so off we go. The first bit is a bit of a walk, so I'll speed that up for you.
Another very slippy culvert. Rather annoying that these culverts are so slippy and we had to go really, really slow. You just don't want to slip with all your gear and get wet on the way in. Anyway, I've sped this one up for you because it's mainly brick. There are a few side tunnels that I'll show you in a moment, but I do want to show you we are heading towards an interesting water feature, and you will note when the water levels start to rise further along, that's when we're near the water feature.
Take a look under this shaft. Wow. So fairly deep, not mega deep. I've got a shot. This side of the water through a different colour.
Right, watch the water levels. They're not going to go up massively, but watch as they start to swell. A couple of side tunnels down here, but you'll note the water level goes higher. And like I say, I can't wait to show you why. There it is, getting higher. The roar is increasing all the time. Bit of a side tunnel here, and I think we're underneath a sewage farm, so it's one to be careful of this. Yeah, and there's a big sump in front of those steps. There's another side tunnel here.
Oh, it's warm, very warm pipes. You know what, that is really warm down there. Why is that so warm? So a bit of a manhole shaft going on there.
Okay, final section before we're stopped in our tracks. There is a massive outfall. I have never seen anything like it underground before.
Right, so there you go. This is why we say, when it rains, stay out of drains. And this is also why this is called Cantankerous, because you ain't getting past there. Not at all.
Just in front of us, where you see the brickwork change, at the side here, there is a drop. So you don't go any nearer than that.
But it's worth to see those to see that torrent of water. That is death. That is death. Now it's not raining that much today, but that torrent is absolutely incredible. So you just get to that point, then you turn around. You saw Cantankerous. You saw that mad flow coming out. So we can't get just the other side of that because the flow is incredible. As you've seen, it's dangerous, and you know we're not going to start putting our lives in danger. So I'm going to show you the section of the Wince Brook now, just after that Cantankerous bit where you see that mad flow coming out.
Okay, so ready for the next section. So we went in here in the culvert, and we went underneath and around the sewage works here, which is what that massive outflow was that we're calling Cantankerous. It makes a brief appearance here, and we can't get down to this bit here because it's over on private land. It runs at the back of this building and it comes back out here. And I can show you that. Not a great deal to look at, and it's in a man-made trough now, but I can show you that bit there. So let's go there.
This is the other side of it. I think it's the most inaccessible place ever that I've ever been to. Brambles everywhere. You won't get it down to this point in summer. But yes, that's where it comes out, and we reckon the flow there is quite deep. It goes round the corner now, and it goes underneath the Rochdale Canal, and I'm going to show you up that end as well. Beautiful little bridge there.
I am told that culvert there, going under there, is very deep and very treacherous, so we stay away. So these steps are an overflow for the Rochdale Canal. Never seen this inflow before, but it must do occasionally. But the Rochdale Canal is much higher up than the brook now, on a kind of embankment. And there's the Rochdale Canal. Okay, so we've seen how the Wince Brook runs along here and drops down here now underneath the Rochdale Canal. There's the overflow that I showed you. It now runs underneath what was a railway yard here. So where it says Broadgate and these factories here, it was a railway yard. I'm just going to show you. You can just see Swan Mill there for your reference. Wince Brook has gone under the canal, as I've shown you. And all this was a big railway yard here. We're going to catch up with it next at Moston Road. But I want to show you this section here on the old maps. There you go. There's the Swan Mill that I showed you, and there's the brook dropping underneath the canal there, and there you go, it goes underneath all those big railway yards there, reappears here just near Moston Road, and the railway yards were to do with all the industry around here, Middleton Junction and Middleton Junction Station. Swan Mill, a remarkable survivor, it's still there. So when we get here, which is where we're going to catch up with it, you'll see the railway architecture, and you'll see just how beautiful railway architecture is anyway. So yeah, so you now meet us struggling to catch the brook down here in this absolute bloody no man's land down here.
I want to show you where it comes out. A bit of a bugger down there. But you can hear the flow of water, so we've had to come down by a bridge here and everything to show you where that massive flow that you saw just then comes out here. Wow. Just very deep here, I can't go any further really. But it's a bit fast, it's a bit deep. Still quite a bit of flow on it from that Cantankerous over in that culvert, because you've got, not only you've got the Wince Brook, you've got the outflow from that what we think is the sewage works. So we'd like to go in, but it's fairly deep and there's a fair old flow on it as well, a fair old flow. If you show your Roy there, it's actually taking him off his feet there, and he's got waders on. I've only got wellies on. Absolutely beautiful bit of stonework there, but really, yeah, I wouldn't recommend anyone going there. It'd have you off your feet easily. And then the Wince Brook goes onwards there, that way, and we'll try and pick it up further down over on what we call the moss.
Okay, so from this bit here, this very difficult bit, where it nearly knocked us off our feet, the Wince Brook runs along here now. I think I gave you a view along that way. Runs down deep in a valley down there. Not a great deal to see and difficult to get to because it's sandwiched in a very industrial area. And it runs underneath this road here that we call Greengate. And it runs there. And it runs across now what we call the moss.
So from those arches, the Wince Brook runs onwards and it goes under a great big main road called Greengate, and then it gets into an area called Middleton Junction, and it runs down between Middleton Junction and a big housing estate called Alcrington, a posh area of Middleton, and it runs across what we used to call the Moss. And you used to play here, didn't you?
Many years ago, yeah.
See, I never came to that. I only lived not very far away, but I never came down the Moss.
We used to steal barrels from the co-op and roll them down the sand hills.
I do remember the barrels, I do remember the barrels. Now the Moss is interesting because the Wince Brook now goes back into its meandering phase, and it snakes around this area, and in the future it's going to cause all sorts of oxbow lakes, if you know what one of those are, because it's kind of eroding the banks and it's creating its own path. I'll show you just further up what I'm on about. You can see how it's eating away at the bank here, and all the turf that's hanging off. In fact, there's a big piece there that's gone, isn't there? Do you remember when I did come down here? I always remember it used to smell, that sewage smell.
Yeah.
There's always a stench down here. I know now why, because of Cantankerous up there, what the treatment works is pumping out into it. And I'm still getting occasionally that bit of a whiff now. So I think, did you look something up? And the Wince Brook is not a clean brook at all.
No, it's classed as a nasty waterway, I think that's what they
Right.
deemed it as. It is
Strange.
heavily polluted.
Yeah.
When we get down into mid, there was all the factories, remember,
Yeah.
pumping out.
But even now it's still a heavily polluted brook. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
With all that effluent that's been treated effluent from up at Foxdenton. Now, you know when people say, I remember this when it was all fields, and it's usually older people, and you know you're getting old when you can say it about places. Well, I don't remember this when it was all fields, but if you look at the lay of the land, you'll see a hill going up there, and above there is a big housing estate called Alcrington, as I've mentioned. But before the trees and when it was all fields, my mum remembers this, and I think there was this hill here, one of them, this should be called Potato Pie.
Britain from above, 1926. The Wince Brook is just behind the mill that you see at the top of the picture, and the Tater Pie that my mum talks of, the hill that they used to play on, is probably just where the X is. In fact, it was about where the X is, she confirmed it. My mum talks about playing in that area, and now it's now a big housing estate, but obviously back then it was all fields. She was born in 1935, so she's talking about 1943, maybe when she was 8 years old, a little bit older, 1946, something like that, maybe when she was 11 or 12. But she talks of a lady that lived in one of those little farmhouses you see dotted about, called Polly Walmsley. And she said she always used to appear walking down the lane in a scarf and a shawl, going to the shops over near where the mill was, and she always scared us. Now, Polly Walmsley probably did nothing wrong at all, but you know what kids are like. My mum also talks about walking down off the hill, probably towards the back of the mill, towards the Wince Brook, her and a friend walking down the hill singing, pretending they were film stars. So to that little girl that played in those fields that are now a big housing estate, my mother, thank you very much for giving us some memories and a different take on this whole story of the Wince Brook.
Right, so we're further down from the Moss and we're heading towards the town of Middleton now, and I wanted to show you this bit briefly because see where the flats are there? Well, there used to be a great big old mill there. You remember, don't you, Roy?
It's a playing there as kids, yeah.
Called Times Mill. It was massive, a big old red brick cotton mill, huge it was, and it dominated the main road here. Just up these steps here was Grimshaw Lane, and it basically caused a shadow on Grimshaw Lane.
Now, of course, I've already shown you Times Mill, because it's there in the top of our photo. I can't tell you how much that mill there, it was on the main road when I went shopping in Middleton, and I can't tell you how much that mill dominated my life. I could even see it from my back garden. And it was the same for Roy. He knew it in his area, and I think he played there when it was derelict. Here's another wonderful photo by somebody called Alan McEwen. I'm glad he had the presence of mind to photograph this, because here it is when it's ready for demolition. I think this is the late 80s. I'm not sure if this is 86 or 87, but you can see part of it has been demolished. And Roy, our Roy, had the presence of mind when he was a kid to go out with his camera and take a photo of it in its final stages. So as per usual, when they demolished these mills, they left a stair tower standing, and I think they blasted it with dynamite. The next pics are from Roy, and thanks Roy for getting these.
Now we talk about the mighty Times Mill that dominated this road here. Well there, look. Yes. So there's one little survivor of Times Mill. The mill was colossal, and there's one thing that survives, and it's across the road here, just after this little garage I'm going to show you now. Quick story for you, very quick story. Imagine me about 8 years old. My sister's boyfriend had a motorbike, and the only car he could get, because he wanted a car at the time, was a Reliant, a three-wheeler, classed as a tricycle. So he went somewhere like Swinton in Manchester to buy this Reliant three-wheeler, this ugly red oxide coloured Reliant. It weren't a Robin, it was like a super van, I think. And we got lost on the way home coming back, and it was horrendous. And I'm about 8 years old, in the back of this Reliant three-wheeler, sister's in the front, her boyfriend's driving, and we're driving and driving and driving, went past the Red Ochre Canal, Eccles I think, or might have been Worsley, and we're driving and driving, and we got lost, and where are we, what are we going to do, we're lost, where are we going, and we're driving for ages, and lo and behold, we passed the Red Ochre Canal again, and we're like, we've been driving for ages and we're still by that canal. Anyway, he had that Reliant super van, right? And he used to work at the Times Mill that I've just been telling you about, and for some reason I think he parked it at the back, which would have been up there, because he had a job there, I think in a sheet metal works that was occupying the lower floor. Left it there a couple of days, it might have had a puncture or it might have had some mechanical problems. Left it there for a couple of days, a lot of kids got hold of it, like they did. They used to take the mickey out of three-wheelers then, and they rolled it down the bank and into the Wince Brook. And I wonder if somewhere just near them flats, if the sort of like the chassis of it is still there, buried in the Wince Brook. Who can tell, eh? That was probably about 1975, 76, something like that. And since then, I've been trying to get James to get a Reliant supervan. Not a Robin, because they're too trendy, but a Reliant supervan.
I've been trying to find it, haven't I?
We've been trying to find one for him, yeah, one in Goodnicks. If you know of anyone selling one, he wants to buy one.
I'm your mum.
He wants to trike his way around town.
Brook now is going underneath this small culvert, and it's going to come out at the end of Middleton.
And remember when we said about the Times Mill and the industrial setting with the big cotton mill and the Wince Brook behind it? Well, we've got that repeated down in Mid with the Warwick Mill, and this time I can show it you because the Warwick Mill is still standing. There you go, that's the Warwick Mill, and the scene there with the brook going past at the back of the mill probably would have been similar to the way the Times Mill looks just further upstream. Beautiful that this is still standing, no plans for it yet, I don't know what they're going to do with it. You can't get in, there's security there all the time, but just wanted to show you this, one of the last of the red brick giants. Chimney long gone unfortunately. But it's been stood here for years, hasn't it? Nothing's ever happened with that, has it? Right, so the Warwick Mill that I've just shown you is there. You can just about see it. The Wince Brook has run behind it, and it's running now underneath that bridge under the main road, and it's about to meet the River Irk. So with this being the size that it is, almost in comparison to the Irk, it's a similar size now, but it's because of that Cantankerous further upstream. where the Foxdenton sewage works outflows. This is artificially swollen because of that outflow over at Foxdenton. But they certainly match each other in size at this point. But later, when the Irk goes further downstream towards Manchester city centre, the Irk will become a much bigger river. So there you go. So you've got the Winces here, and over there you've got the Irk. And down here, there you go. There's the confluence. That's the end of the Wince Brook, and there it meets the Irk. So there you go. That's the end of the story. The Wince now meets the Irk. The Irk will continue onwards through North Manchester. It will be met by other watercourses, one of them being the Moss Brook, and we've seen where that meets the Irk as well. The Irk will plunge underneath Victoria Station in its culvert, where we've been again. It will then meet the Irwell. The Irwell will head on, it will join with the Mersey, and then we'll head on out to the Irish Sea. And that's the end of the story of a little brook called the Wince Brook. So, from myself, at the confluence of the Wince Brook and the River Irk, James and Roy. And we've got to thank Roy for showing us all those culverts, because I didn't know where they were and that they existed. Thanks very much for watching. Take care, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.
See you, mate.